The major conflicts in the Philadelphia Convention were on how to best represent the people of the United States, shown through the arguments given in the Virginia Plan, written by James Madison, which called for the abolishment of the Articles of Confederation and the institution of a strong national government, with three individual branches: Congress, executive, and judicial branches, Congress being split into the House of Representatives and the Senate. Membership in these two houses were supposed to be based on the population of the states being represented. In this plan, Congress had far more powers than the other two branches. Also, there was the New Jersey Plan, written by William Paterson. This plan called for the U.S. to keep the framework of the Articles of Confederation, keeping a more decentralized form of government. This plan also called for the institution of three branches differing in powers and responsibilities, which were spread evenly between the three branches. Congress would also only have one branch, and those elected into Congress would be limited in order to keep an equal number of representatives for each state. Both of these plans were rejected for different reasons. Foremost was due to the smaller states saying that if the Virginia plan was used, they would be underrepresented, and the larger states said that if the New Jersey plan was used, the people would be underrepresented. So in order to resolve the problem, a committee was formed with one delegate from each state. They came up with the Great Compromise, which took multiple aspects from both plans. The national government would have three branches, each with equal power and responsibilities. Congress would be broken into two branches, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives would be based on the state population, while the number of senators would be equal, with two per state. It was also questioned as to how to best represent slaves, which was resolved through 3/5 compromise so as to give the slave states reason to agree with the Constitution.
As to reasons for and against the limits on senators per state, I have several, starting with large states not being able to completely render small states inert, which each state only being granted 2 senators, all states have the chance to be heard. Also, with the HOR in existence, the general populace is still being represented fairly. With the other branch in existence, the argument against equal representation in the Senate is significantly weaker, however still true. That is, that the Senate being equal representation for all states poses the threat to the populace being misrepresented. But that seems like nothing when states like California would have 53 representatives. No help can be given to states like Wyoming, Vermont, or Montana, which are just 3 of many states that only have 1 representative. The Senate limit will allow Wisconsin to be able to make some decisions, and more importantly, protect its residents from having their rights infringed upon.
Involving the 3/5 Compromise Clause and Fugitive Slave Clause in the Constitution had pros and cons. These clauses was a way to gain Southern support. Most of the Southern states' population were slaves, so without slaves being counted, they wouldn't have as much of a say in government. However, slaves being considered property, not people, they could not be counted as a full person. So the 3/5 Compromise got the South's attention, because the alternative was not being able to get anything done in the House. Some argued that the slaves shouldn't be counted at all, because the representatives selected would be protecting the slave owners, and not the interests of the slaves themselves. As to the Fugitive Slave Act, it was effective in making slave states feel more comfortable with the free states, because it made it so slaves could be captured if they escaped. However, this also put the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in danger for free African Americans, as they were snatched just as frequently as escaped slaves. Despite drawing the North and the South together slightly, the inclusions of these 2 clauses embedded slavery and racism into the nation. This has led to the Civil War and to smaller events like the riots that are occurring today.